on this episode of the Soul Twin Stars podcast.
You don't want to miss one moment of a love story that you have with anyone else. Why would you do that to yourself?
Choose the people that present themselves to you. And if it's a match and it's a vibe and a resonance, oh my gosh, hold on to it and cherish it.
Even though it's a painful journey, it's one of the most beautiful, rewarding journeys you could ever go down.
My authenticity is not allowed here. That hits a chord in me so deeply.
Hi, I'm Lady Shadowe, a witch with much to share, stirring the cauldron with magical self-care.
Hi, I'm Peaceful Nik, a medium divine. I chat with the dead and interpret every sign.
We are Soul Twin Stars, best friends through it all.
From spells to healing, we're answering the call.
From moon cycles to menopause and making peace with the dead.
We aren't afraid to talk about what's rarely said.
So tune in each week to get raw, real, and wise.
Let's talk about a spiritual life with absolutely no disguise. Welcome to the Soul Twin Stars podcast, Uninhibited Spirituality. Peaceful Nik and Lady Shadowe here. We would like to first and foremost thank our sponsors for this episode. Thank you to Beans and Buttercream Bakery. Delicious homemade treats shipped anywhere. Call 417-973-2352. And Abernathy Photography, based in southwestern Kentucky, a professional and stellar company providing drone photography in both local and destination weddings. Visit abernathyphotography.com. Author Mary Ray's self-reflection workbook on conquering shame and guilt, Tell the Devil to Go to Hell, an interactive memoir, is available on Amazon.com. Craving delicious Italian cuisine? You can find it right here in Westchester County, New York at Fino Restaurant. That's Fino Restaurant at One Baltic Place in Croton-on-Hudson, New York. All of our sponsors are linked up on our Soul Twin Stars podcast Facebook page, and we thank them for making this podcast possible. And now, back to our episode.
Welcome back to the Soul Twin Stars podcast, everyone. We are so happy that you are joining us. I am joined by my wonderful and incredible co-host, Lady Shadowe. I'm Peaceful Nik, the medium. How are you today, LS?
I am back and bigger and more excited about life than ever. I just finished the show on Off-Broadway, and I'm riding in on my theatrical chariot of humility and gratitude for such a wonderful week. And thank you for having me back and holding down the fort with Carrie last week. And I heard you had a wonderful conversation. So thank you for that.
It was great. And I can't wait to have her on again when we go to video in a couple of weeks. That's going to be awesome. And I just want to let everybody know this is either going to make everyone happy or sad. There are 6 Fridays until Christmas as of today.
Wow.
The 6th Friday until
and that's 6 podcasts too.
So get your shopping done now.
And then listen to us talking shit throughout all of it.
Exactly. I also want to remind people that the way things are going in the economy, it's very important to shop small businesses. It may take you longer to get your packages, so order early. You can give gift cards from small businesses. I know peacefulnikthemedium.com has gift cards. And any kind of small business, stay away from the big box stores. I do follow this creator on Instagram, and her name escapes me, but she goes to Goodwill stores and secondhand stores, and she buys different things that she groups together for a very inexpensive price and makes them beautiful and gives them as gifts. So that's also an option. So you're not spending hundreds of dollars on a present for somebody that they don't really need a present for hundreds of dollars. Who needs that much stuff? Also, I am raising money for Feeding America, Toys for Tots, and Help a Diabetic Child. You can donate to me directly through my Venmo or PayPal through my Linktree, or I will link in the show notes, I will link all of the links to donate to them directly. It's very important. All 3 of those causes are very important to me for reasons I've talked about before. So please donate if you can. And Lady Shadowe, let's talk about your divine moment this week.
Well, I just, like I said, finished Afterlife. It's been a 3-month long process between writing and rehearsals. and the divinity of the wonderful things that happened over the course of the week at the theater between the audiences and the wonderful actors and the interactions between the both. And we had a celebrity at our show. That's right. We can't name who it was. They wish to remain anonymous. But we had a pretty big celebrity come to our show, and that was really exciting. And I'll be following up with the whole thing behind that when I can actually divulge what happened. But thank you all to those who tuned into the live stream. We had quite a few people on the live stream. Thank you so much. And we also have separate video that's going out to certain people. So if you missed anything and want to watch later or at another time, please reach out to me at my website, hangingcowproductions.com. But thank you all for being so supportive. And that's my divine moment. Just so thankful that the show went off without a hitch and successfully. We were almost sold out every single show. We were oversold for 2 shows. That was really cool. And it was just an amazing week. So super thankful for that.
The show is amazing. Everybody, please order the replay because it is right up my alley, as you know, as a medium. It is about the afterlife and the stories that are told and the growth, the soul growth in the play is incredible. Beautiful writing, beautiful directing, wonderful actors on stage. My divine moment this week was working with my mentees. My mentorships have really increased recently, one-on-one mentorships. I'm also starting a new small class in January, but my students are growing at such a rapid rate. It makes me absolutely 100% sure that we are having a huge spiritual awakening in this world, and there's no better time than now for that to happen. So everybody keep your chin up. We're all in this together. We have to stay positive and continue building communities where we lift each other up. So that's my divine moment. I would also like to say our wonderful and incredible guest, who I've known most of my life, is Aunt Jenn, the aunt you never knew you needed. We would love to welcome Aunt Jenn to the podcast. Hello, hello, Aunt Jenn. How are you today?
Oh, hello, 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 lovely ladies. It is so wonderful to be here. And also, I really enjoy just being able to connect. So today I'm doing very well. Thank you for asking.
Wonderful. Now, you are known as Aunt Jenn, the aunt you never knew you needed. What makes you the aunt everyone wishes they had?
I'm an animal mother. So I'm a dog mom. And being an aunt, that's one of the roles actually that I take one of the most pride in. Like when I hear being called Aunt Jenn, like it kind of makes me rise up, kind of like some people will hear being called mom or whatever those endearing kind of words are. So aunt has always kind of really lighted something up with inside myself. And it's like, who doesn't need a good aunt? Like I know the aunts that like had a huge impact on who I am today and how I showed up. And so it just is kind of something that became authentic and natural already within. And so I've just kind of played with it and it just kind of showed up and started kind of working in that direction. So I would say that's kind of how it just authentically birthed itself.
I'll say that you were an aunt to my nieces and nephews and to my sons, and your relationship that you've built with so many of them and your own nieces and nephew is invaluable.
Mm,
Invaluable because you have so much wisdom and so much empathy and compassion, and your love is unconditional. You never
mm.
put conditions on the love you have for people, and I just appreciate that so much.
Oh, thank you so much. I really, that is true. I was called an aunt in a lot of different cultures and in a lot of different places. Like that was actually something to refer to as being respectful. If someone was older, they were an elder, they were referred to as an auntie. And so growing up in San Francisco and having the wonderful cultures that were just right even next door to me that I just thrived in. And so I really came to loving that name very, very early on and always in hopes and waiting and practice for my blood ones that were eventually going to come on someday, right? So yeah, that's definitely one of those things. So thank you for that.
Your story is very powerful, your origin story. What inspired you to start your coaching business, and how did your journey to self-love lead you into this business?
I really think there's that, I look back at myself and I believe that there's many different reasons. It was definitely a trauma response of like really being there for people because I didn't have people there for me, or so it felt. And so I just kind of always showed up quite big, authentically, but big, and being there and supporting people. And so it was kind of a natural thing to begin with. However, like the real passion and how it really started on that of having different things to offer was getting to the places within that were just so painful. It was just so uncomfortable and it was so painful. And I was always someone who was seeking to I love to learn. And so I've learned that like I just had a different way of learning. It was everything I do is different. And so like the regular education and all, like I was interested in learning more different things than about presidents and about like I wanted to learn about life and people and like cultures and how things happen and what's going on within ourselves. And so I think I just became so uncomfortable within myself. And as I was learning different things, then I would like to share. And, it didn't become like it was more of something just I would just do it. There wasn't necessarily an exchange other than like what we may be exchanging together, but not financially exchanging until I think I really got introduced to some of the huge monumental tools that really changed my life was when I went to the Chopra Center and became an employee there and really became a part of the whole process and everything they offered and taught. And it just catapulted me to a deeper level of healing within myself. And I just was inspired to become a teacher and a coach, specifically within meditation, of learning that people thought it was supposed to look one way. And it was like, no, that's not actually how I believe that it's supposed to look. And just being able to be on the other side, whether it's a phone call or a visual face to someone where they can be heard, felt, and seen. Because I can remember those moments of being so in pain in so many different ways and having someone even offer a part of it and what it felt like for me. And so being able to do that for somebody, like, it's like I'm doing that, but also it brings more joy to me than anything else I can think of. Like, it's just like having someone feel like it's okay to be you and it's okay to be whatever's going on. Like, and so it just kind of was more of a natural thing. And also like, they say it, I've heard it so often, like, do what you love doing and then it's never really work. And
Right.
it's like I could sit around and talk with people and listen with people who are actually who are in a position where they feel coachable to want to do, because it's an exchange. Coaching is an exchange of like the person has to want to do the work, to look at this themselves, to sit in the uncomfortableness. And so I think that might have answered your question, but yeah, it really just started off from my own personal pain, wanting to be there for people and sharing and receiving so much, and then seeing that, that it was supporting people and it was a way that I could actually help other people when I felt like maybe I didn't have that much to offer per se, like of just evaluating outside of myself of what other people can do and like what am I actually doing, right? And it was like that was something that was never questionable. I don't believe that wasn't who I was. I would always just kind of show up because that was something that was true that I could be able to offer to people.
Auntie Jen, thank you for coming on. You're
Thank
so
you for
awesome.
having me.
I remember you from years ago too. Your awesome charisma, your personality, your energy. And I can easily see how this translates into your coaching business now. For the audience mostly, because Nik, and you, and my husband, Cosmic Chris, we all do different levels of spiritual coaching, life coaching. And I think our audience sometimes wants the differentiation between when do I need a therapist? When do I need a life coach? So maybe you can talk about how you kind of check in with the symptoms of somebody who needs more organization skills and more encouragement and, defining their goals over going into deep traumas, which is what a therapist is for, because none of us claim to be doctors or therapists. We are here as coaches, mostly, through spirituality. What are the signs that somebody needs a coach versus the therapist?
Well, I mean, I think that like, you can start with the fact of like, what are you seeking, right? What are you looking for with the exchange of showing up and having someone be on the other side? And a coach I look at is like, it's somebody who is like, for me, describing myself, like when I look at, when someone's like, you're a coach, what does that mean? And so for me, the analogy that I feel like is like, we're on this walk, and it's a walk to go to. Some people it might sound like, what's that, like to go home, and it's home to yourself, like to where the true birth of like where we, like my philosophy of bringing. And so we're on this walk, and we're climbing mountains, and we're walking through treacherous forests, and we're getting out there in the beautiful meadows, and there's the storm coming down, and there's the sunshine and the rain. I mean, anything you can think of, right? All along when you're going on these walks. And I look at it as like, I'm just walking with you. Looking back and seeing like, you have to do the walk. I cannot walk anything for anybody, but I can walk right next to you. And knowing that I've done some of this walk myself in my own particular way, it's a way of like being able to offer some feedback, some tools. Tools are a big one of like, hey, and I like to look at it as I throw spaghetti, when you throw spaghetti against the wall and it sticks. And so it's like, I like to throw out tons of tools, as many as I possibly can, because who knows what's going to stick with someone. But we're just walking along together on the path of this journey together. And maybe you're going to a rest stop, and we're gonna go different directions, right? And you're gonna be able to go and in that other direction. And a therapist is someone who's really qualified in different ways of education per se, and specialties. And I look at it as like you're more in the care unit. So maybe you got really wounded, on your trip, and you fell, right? And you really broke your ankle. And there's a very specific reason of like the ankle is like, and so maybe that's when you're in someone who's really qualified to be able to do something like that while you still have the person that you're walking with, because they're offering something too. And lastly, what I would say is like, it's very, for me personally, I've broken it down of like, what is it that I feel like is something I authentically can offer, and what is it that I authentically have always seeked within. And it's being heard, felt, and seen for who I am and where I am in this moment, and being able to offer someone that space in the celebrations of life and the pitfalls of darkness, where you just feel like no one understands this, but like, how does this happen? Is something that like it just oozes out of me in this way of like just real genuineness. And I'm just trying to put it together in a way that, how can I do this, and what can I do? And I've worked with every age group and all the different things. And of course I have things that are they just really rain and hit you even harder within, that beauty of the fire within you. And it's really anyone that's younger than me, that just to be able to, can I make your load a little easier? Can I help you find things that like, so you could cut off a few decades of like what I, had been through,
Oh,
and the mirror of them for the mirror of me, of like where, it just is a really beautiful, and they don't have as much baggage and it's just like, I am just that, it's a lot. And so those times when you have lots of different things to unpack that are, because you haven't really gone places, you need specialties of people like going to be able to help you. And so that's another time when it's important to have someone who's a specialized therapist for, and that again takes time, like a coach, to find someone that resonates with you, because you want to just like, oh, I got this. And it's just like, that doesn't work. It takes, if I could go through the therapist I've gone through to get to the one that oh, she's amazing. So it's like, but it's a journey itself.
I
So
always
that was the
say,
long of the short of it. So thanks.
Of course.
I always say when you're picking a coach or a medium or a psychic or a tarot reader or a therapist, it's like for a woman, it's like picking a gynecologist. You don't just want to make an appointment with anybody.
No.
You have to resonate with the person you're seeing. I tell clients, I tell people on my lives, on my videos here on the podcast, if you don't resonate with me, do not come to learn from me. If you don't resonate with me, do not come get a reading with me, because you want the vibe to match. And when you were mentioning about the students, the coaching clients you have, it made me think, I know you love learning from people.
Mm.
what types of things do you have stuck out to you that you've learned from coaching your clients? Like, I know some of the stories because we know each other offline, but what sticks out to you? What are some of the big aha moments you've had?
Well, I personally view life in a lot of ways as people depending when you're having more of an engagement with someone, instead of just there's all kinds of things with people time wise. Sorry, I got tongue tied there for a second of what I was trying to say. But you're getting this like larger amount of time to be interacting with someone. And I've always looked at it as a mirror. I haven't always liked to look at it as a mirror, and I haven't always been willing and open to look at it as a mirror, the person that's sitting on the other side. But the clients are some sort of a mirror for me as well, of myself. And some of it can be like, oh, this is a reminder of who I was, what was going on, what was happening, and or where I've come from, or where I want. Like, there's just so many different things. And so I enjoy the mirror of that, of being able to have that on the other side when I'm coaching. And it keeps me on working on myself. Besides like just being there to show up, it keeps me, it humbles me in a lot of different ways of like, watching people and being a part of someone's, like it's kind of like a child, right? You have when you're a parent, like you can relate to that, of course, like you're watching this child that grows and expands and learn, and it's like this magical, beautiful thing. I look at coaching someone in the same way, like being a part of their journey as they grow too, like and witnessing them, not having to be the mirror piece, but be the witness for them to be able to see where they're going to be able to remind that. And then a beautiful space tender of just being able to hold space for someone while they just, who knows what's going to happen. Sometimes they don't even need to listen to you. There's nothing you need to say. They don't even need to say anything. They just need someone whose energy, because I believe everything has to be with energy. Like they just need to be with someone's energy that's being able to provide something other than what we're saying. It's what you're feeling.
Unconditional love, like we talked about earlier. I know
Mm,
that Shadow has a question, but can I just ask for a clarification quickly? Um, when you say mirror, you're looking at them as a mirror. Can you
mm.
explain to those who are unfamiliar with that term, what does that mean?
That means that I'm looking at them as the reflection of myself and what they may be talking about, what they may be projecting. I mean, I do that with even with people that I'm interacting with, but a client, like what they're projecting as something that happens to be something that lies within myself.
I see.
Because anytime we're speaking about something, like it's always a representation of ourself, but that languaging for people is just like, I don't know, some people it's like, that doesn't make any sense, or I'm not sure. And it's like, no, it's pretty much like for me, it's like, it's constant. Like whether, it's like, it's just constantly of like what that kind of looks like. So I think that is, what that piece is that I'm choosing. I also have to think that's important to kind of state is I'm choosing to see it as a reflection of like, oh, wow. And even getting just little tweaks of like, ooh, wow, what that person said might have been, oh, this. And it's like, oh, where does that live with inside me? Where is that? How is that my kind of a piece? So it's kind of a combination, right, of one of all those things that are put together. But I believe it's a mirror of like, and the beauty. It's like what you see in someone else is really what you can see in yourself. The dark, the light, all of it. Like that's why you actually have the ability to kind of see that kind of a thing, is because maybe there's somewhere in you, or it sparks something within you. It's another thing is like, it's just like you bringing up the ideas. That's, when I'm putting out some of these ideas too, as coaching or suggestions, it's really like maybe my suggestion is going to have you go off on something else for yourself. Like I am not the guru. Gee, you are you. Like I just want to be there to be like, what bounces off from you that might stick and what maybe inspires. It's kind of like you sit around and have those marketing, right? Don't you sit around and you have all these you're talking about stuff to see what inspires the next person. Same kind of concept per se. It's like, oh, maybe that'll inspire you to do something else for yourself. And then also, what do you maybe see in your mirror reflection, right? Of being able to be like, okay, we can talk about other people. And like, it's important to be able to see that piece of maybe where that might lie with you through questioning, of asking you so that you can actually see that yourself. Yet, if you don't have the willingness to actually be able to see that, even though it may be uncomfortable, you're not actually really genuinely coachable. Like you can have barriers and stuff, but the coachability is not necessarily there because you're not trying to see that. You're just trying to someone validate all of your points, right? About what this is it. And it's like, that's important too. And it's important to make sure you see yourself in that, which is a whole mirror. It can be looked at as a mirror concept.
And Auntie Jenn, so I love what you're saying. And I also believe that the mirror idea is also the idea that we're all human and that we have been through all of the gamut of emotions together, and that we've built empathy and compassion as human beings to help others because we've been through it ourselves, and we can see pain in others. We can see joy in others. And so when we can feel and observe other people's emotions, attachments, their defects of character, as the 12 steps would say, it's so much easier to help them because we're connecting with our own shortcomings that we hopefully have also worked through at some point before healing someone else with it. But also, as a coach, it's a very fine line, I think, when all of us are coaching, whether it's through a psychic means or through spirituality, because there is a lot of psychology that underlies and crosses into a therapy type conversation and environment. And so when we're coaching, we not only have to be careful as to not diagnose anything medically, but we do have to get into the territory of feelings and trust. And we have to know our clients and what they are capable of in order to ask things to be expected of them. In other words, it's communication, right? And it can go very deep when you're coaching people. So again, when we were asking you earlier about the symptoms of, how does someone define whether or not they need a life coach or a therapist? The cool thing is, like, I know that you do consults, Nik does consults. I do a 20-minute consult for free before I take on any clients. And I have a questionnaire that kind of shapes the kind of changes that somebody wants to make in their life. And I'm sure you have found this too, that it has to fit within a certain criteria. Someone has to be able to define exactly, like you said, what they need from somebody. They also need to define the vibe that they're looking for somebody. Some people want more tough love. Some people need somebody with a really gentle touch who's willing to go really slow with them through their changes. And other people are like, nope, I'm tired of my life the way it is. I need somebody direct and someone to really tell me what to do and have really high expectations of me. Otherwise, I will not be accountable. So I would love to know from you, what's your overall protocol for when you take on a new client? What types of questions do you ask of them? And what is the most common type of coaching that you get? Is it, like I said, organizing of life? Is it more spiritual goals to find their inner self? Is it more about defining their dreams and manifestations, that kind of thing?
Well, thank you. That's a good question. And I just want to add, like, everything you said, I would chime in on that, of like, yes, yes, yes. Like, that was articulated like so beautifully on the coaching aspect of it, and just all of it for us, the way that we show up and where we're at. And so I just wanted to first be able to say that. And I would say that, I try to keep myself, you can have a niche per se of like what your passion is, and then you just have a lot of different tools to be able to pull from. So the niche, the place that really sparks my core of my coaching is self-love. It's the journey to self-love. And what I mean by that is the love of ourself. I think, this is share. It's really, honestly, it's the concept and the coaching and all that is all come from my own self, of really like going on this path of my own, of trying to find that love that you look for outside of yourself, first starting with your parents, or the disappointments start there, and then with different partners, and then with friendships, and then all the different things that go on that you feel within yourself, that society projects towards you, that you get caught up in, and not knowing that you're walking around. And so it's really like my goal, for my personal self, and then to share, is to have this most amazing, beautiful love story that has ever been written in the history of written. But it's the journey of my own love story with me. There's people that are there that are a part of it, they're characters, right? And but they're not the main character in any which way, shape, or form. It is completely and wholly the journey of loving yourself through the darkness, through the accepting the self of all the different pieces of who I am and where I come from and being able to handle things. And so I think that the first part is that. And so the way that I'll determine or finding out is like, I mean, that's the first thing. Where is somebody at with their love for themselves? And generally speaking, that in itself, finding out where they are is the first step of like, oh yeah, no, my love for myself and where I'm at is something that I really want to work on. And so from there, we're delving into, in my program and stuff that I offer is like there's one that's talking about our bodies, and there's one that's addressing the father, and there's one that's addressing the mother, and there's one that's addressing like dating ourselves, and like so there's all these different things that are going on, but most of it is it's all comprised and going back to the love that you have for you, where there's no one else that's involved, that we just keep on seeking that's out. And so again, I remember the question is how do I determine that is like really finding out where they're at with themselves, what they're kind of seeking as far as their love goes. And I mean, how much are they? That's how kind of the Aunt Jen thing started, with these little snippets of things, of just these questions of like, hey, like, how much time do you spend on your outside? How, versus your inside? Like, how the impact of other people having on it? Like, how do you view yourself? How do you talk to yourself? How do you like? And so initially, it's the self-love journey that is the coaching. And then the tools are from my spirituality, from my teachings of Ayurveda, from my meditation, from my life experiences, from different people that I can offer for them to go and seek, to go to someone else who specializes in something. But I would say that at least right now, things I'm always open to where spirit wants to take me and what's going to happen. But I'm teaching where I'm at, which is this beautiful, authentic love story with myself. And that involves when you're with other people too, to keep that love story and that love relationship, like when you're even in a partnership with someone. And a strong passion of my coaching is to make sure these younger ones, it just drives me like, I want to make sure that you love you before you feel like you have to be in a partnership, before you even get there. Can we just make sure, because then you're going to track someone differently because of where you're presenting yourself per se. And so it's really about being okay with you, because I wasn't okay with me because of how I was taught that I shouldn't be, or, whatever was going on. It was just like, well, yeah, but it's just me and me and me in the end. Like,
I
so
think that, and you were saying earlier, and I think that in general, a lot of us, most of us, are probably not okay with our entire authentic selves, which is why Nik and I started this podcast, because everyone is starved because of the way that society, friends, and family, like you mentioned, literally chips away at our, by default, our MO, loving, empathetic, sympathetic beings. And all of that just gets chipped away. And by the time we're in our 30s, 40s, and 50s, we're either exhausted, swimming in low self-esteem, self-worthlessness, and the obligation to others, and where our authentic selves completely got lost. And so I love that you are so self-love focused on that.
yeah, now I would add that I've never even thought about like self-love and authentic, like being, it would really be like being able to be okay to be, I mean, that would be another one I'm going to add to my repertoire. I hadn't even thought about, like, I'm an authentic coach. Like, if that was in terminology of like, can I help you to be authentic? It's like, I'm always authentic, because if I'm not going to be able to be authentic, I'm not going to be around you. That's how I've always lived my life. It might look differently to people. I'll be like, oh, she's sick a lot. No, I'm really not probably sick. Like, I'm just being authentic. And right now my authenticity is not allowed here. And so it's going to show up in this way, or it's going to show up in that way. But it's like, I don't really know how to be anyone but authentic. I never realized that about myself, like, because I thought that everyone was kind of like that. And I've come to, that's not necessarily the case. And it's not a judgment in any such a way. It's just, that to me, it's like a freeing place. So even though there's all of these things that might hold me, have me dealing with, like, I'm free from that. I feel like I've created that and allowed that for myself, the freedom to be like myself, the freedom to be who I am, as I'm discovering who are you truly, besides all the stuff of what people have put on you and how they've told you not to be. Like, who are you truly, right? Who is that? And helping to discover that and realizing that can shift and change too.
Yeah.
But being able to be heard, felt, and seen in that place, in that moment of where you're at, can really catapult people to who knows.
I just want to say I'm in tears over here. the quote, I had other questions, but when you said, you're probably not sick, but my authenticity is not allowed here, that hits a chord in me so deeply because I have felt like an alien amongst the humans that I've grown up around most of my life. And I think that's what bonded me to you. That's what bonded me to Lady Shadow. We've been friends for 30 and 40 years. And I just can't even, I don't even know what else to say except that needs to be on a shirt. That needs to be your tagline. That needs to be something because
Mm,
I just, I don't think people understand that about themselves when they're uncomfortable to go spend time with other people. They make excuses because you didn't understand that then. You didn't
no.
understand that, but now you do because of your journey to self-love. And
Hmm.
my next question was about self-love, but you must have read my mind because that was going to be my next question. And um and you talked about being with yourself first. And I think that goes along with the authenticity because if you can be with yourself and you can understand who you are, and I've said this many times, you will attract or be able to discern the person that's vibing with you, somebody emotionally intelligent, somebody who can love you authentically, right? And yeah, I'm just blown away. I don't even know what else to say. I'm just, I'm not at a loss for words a lot. So I will ask a different question. All right. So sometimes adult children, this has been coming up a lot in my spiritual guidance readings and with people I know. Sometimes adult children realize their parents are narcissists or have narcissistic traits. What do you do? Because I have someone very close to me who is just realizing, like this week, that her mother is a narcissist. Now, how would you guide an adult in her 30s or 40s to that, to to realize, oh no, I've been manipulated all these years and I didn't know it. Like, how would you coach somebody with that mother wound? Because I know you said you have a mother, a father, a self, you have all these different programs. Let's say this person comes to you with that issue. How do you deal with that?
Very good question. And I also, did you have anything about how you do with clients or anything? Because we were talking about that before going on to another subject, just curiosity, first and foremost. Because the last time we had the question, you had such great things to add. I love when if there's anything about what you're doing for finding, being able to like seek out clients for what they're looking for or something. I just didn't know if you had any feedback, was what I meant to say, of like
Oh,
anything with
it,
regards to that.
it's the same. I mean, when people come to me for a reading or for coaching in the past, they were very specific about what it is they're looking for. And in Nick's question, a nod to that. Now that's more of the psychology of, you know, a more of a therapy question. However, the family dynamic and how you were raised and what type of friends you keep and what lifestyle you have is all in my questionnaire, because I do have a screening questionnaire that I give my clients, and it does ask that general history so that I kind of know whether or not I can even take on that client responsibly, to decipher how much trauma they have or haven't gone through. Like Nick and I both understand the situation with dealing with these types of people, and there could be a trauma wound that I am not equipped to handle, other than to be a listening ear and to guide on very human surface coaching levels. Again, I don't diagnose, none of us diagnose, none of us medically treat anybody, but to know the relationship status of the important people in your life, including with your mate and with your friends can give a coach, as you both know, a lot of information about what the client needs and where they're at and how far they're going to have to go to work on some of the issues that, that will be presented. So, yeah, I mean, I agree with everything that you said, Aunt Jenn, that you have to unlock the self-love button first. And that includes honestly looking at all of the relationships and those relationships in your orbit and how they do or don't affect you, like Nik was saying, because narcissism or alcoholism, drug abuse, which Nik and I have a lot of in our family, is a rampant problem, and it creates a human being that looks at the world very differently. And again, we were just talking about the chipping away of our core, and it's through those circumstances that also chip away at who we become, the way that we were raised, and the people that we were around, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So yeah.
Yes. And you did, Ken, like I do have a whole list, I sometimes when I didn't know any of these questions ahead of time, not that I need to prepare because I don't really think that's necessary. Sometimes that gets more in my head. So I really enjoy that. So I have a whole gamut of questions of like, it was more of a question of like, can you say yes to these questions? And right now I can't think of the questions off the top of my head, like of the ones that I had, but like, they answer these questions to see how many no's they have, right? And how many yeses to be able to see if this is the right program. And also making sure and guiding, because I don't have the skill set of a therapist, nor do I want the skill set of a therapist. So, but getting back to your question, I'm so glad that you were able to add something because you always have so much to add, Lady Shadow. But Nicole, about your question of how I would handle someone who just realized about a narcissist, like, first of all, there's never one right answer. So I would just say that, like, at least for me, it might seem a bunch, but there'd be a couple different ways I'd handle it, depending upon the person and where they're at. But during the best way to put it, I'd like to say actually is, so I'm looking at this in just the moment, and it's more along the lines of how would I kind of view this whole thing based on my time with them. So I'm looking at someone who I'm with a long period of time, and this is something that we're discussing. One of the areas that when it would be appropriate and able to feel into is I would be the an autobiography of the mother, meaning like what and what's going on of this person. Like, let's just, so you're clear, not for excuses, but to understand. Because to me, I'm always seeking to understand for myself, to understand myself, not to understand why that person's that way, but so I can understand who I am, how things have affected me. So I would say that you want to do you're doing an autobiography, you're doing a timeline per se, like of the parent. What is their story without you? And then when you're coming in to be able to have that be a piece of it. And another piece of it is, especially if it's something that's newer or not newer, there's a lot of feelings that are behind that generally in a situation when you're dealing with a narcissist are not usually dated, because they're minimized. And so that we'd spend a lot of time there for sure in just being validated for how this individual feels, that they have been in this relationship with this mother and how they're feeling in it, of like, doesn't matter if the mom, after we've done the autobiography, being a part of the story, it's to understand, but it's not to use it as an excuse so that you just move on from that. But it's helping you to kind of pinpoint of like how that person came. And then really, once you're getting someone, sometimes you spend a lot of time. I mean, you spend a lot of time with the individual, like just being in those feelings, not getting stuck in there. Sometimes you get stuck and it's like, oh, they came back out. Okay. Because you can get stuck, like just kind of like swirling down. And it's kind of a part of it is like how you get yourself out from falling. But it's really being able to be validated on the feelings, the emotions, wait, how many times you were gaslighted, how many times your mother actually like took over when it was supposed to be about, I mean, it's just like this, all the different things of ways of being dismissed, and like having a space where someone isn't being dismissed from. Hopefully I'm offering as a place of like, I'm a woman, I'm an old, I have that energy of like, so I'm hoping to provide that space. I'm not the mother, but coming from that motherly energy. I had a therapist tell me that once, and she's like, you don't have to actually birth a child to be a mother and to have this motherly energy. Some people just really have that. Mine just this aunt energy, but it still is like, there still is this mothering. It's coming from mother Earth. And so being able to provide that space, that can catapult someone to so many different levels that I don't know what I do now, right? It just depends on what's in the toolbox of what this person may need, of like giving them the next piece that we add to it for sure is like, what can I help you put into your toolbox so that when you go around this person, you've got your toolbox and you're like, okay, I have to pull this one out. Okay, that didn't work. All right, well, let me pull this one out. Okay, that didn't work. Okay, got this one. Oh, this is working. Okay, and I got another one. It's like just helping them to have a toolbox, right, of life to be able to deal with themselves around this person. I keep saying the person, we were talking about the mother specifically, but it can be in general anybody, right? It can,
Right.
but I would say, like, just off the top of my head from you asking this question, those would definitely be things that, I would cover and find out. And then, we've got the trauma in there. There's so many different pieces of it. And it's like, it's kind of important. Like none of them, I think they all just go together. Like when you're making a recipe, adding a little salt and adding a little pepper and getting a little bit of this. And so I would say it's probably a combination of that would be how I would work with somebody. And also finding out, I had my coach remind me of this and be like, oh my gosh, that's right. It's like, you can tell a lot from somebody, people do the way they do things, right? And that does happen. It's like, and it's not saying it's everything is how you do one thing is how you do everything, but it does have some validity to it of how you may do something is how you may do everything somehow in your life. And so the question that she loves to ask that I was just like, oh, it's so great, is how do you get into a pool? If it's cold, like, do you have to walk in slowly? Do you jump in? And we were discussing that because she has to go in a little slowly. And I'm like, oh no, I just jump right in. And then I look at different things of like how I've like changed habits and how like I don't wean myself off per se of something. I just do it. And like, where they're like, oh, I'm a little more of a weaner offer, it kind of comes in that situation and being like, oh my gosh, that is an example of like, oh, you go into the pool like that. So that can look like that. And I go into the pool that way. And like, so you're finding out how somebody needs to show up. Like I've used it in many other different ways, but the pool one's a great analogy of it, of like finding out, getting someone's temperature on how they need help. Just like Lise had kind of said, of like, someone needs someone a little hard, they need someone that's going to hold them accountable. Sometimes they just need someone they can cry to. And sometimes they need someone like, and so it's like, you're finding out. And so there's different questions that I'll ask like that. The pool one we just talked about today when I was meeting with her. And so it was like fresh on my mind, right? But there's many questions of finding out from people to see how you can support them with the heaviness of their caring. In this particular conversation, wrapping this around in so many probably ways I went, so excuse me, is, the narcissist and how to handle that, or, what to deal with it. And it would probably be like a combination of so many different things, because in the end, like, I want to make sure, to wrap it up about that, I want to make sure that no matter what happens, this person has themselves, because the narcissist is not going to change.
Right.
And the more you change, you're going to really piss off the narcissist.
Yeah.
So then you can see that it's working. And then you have to then it's just showing that you're leveling yourself up to get more tools. Not that like you're, like, oh, whatever, just be like, oh, that's not, now I'm getting somewhere. So I need to, they're paying attention in a different way. So I need to work on what I would say is, when you're finding that doesn't mean it's more about them. It's more about you. That's just showing how, oh my gosh, this is even more important to really get myself, because this is really pissing the person off. And it's going to it can catapult me to quit, to not do that, to not actually continue to grow, to not go and hang out with that person at all, because I have no tools. I just know now I'm like changing and I'm like, oh gosh, now they're not like, right. And so there's so many different aspects of it, but I would say that, whatever I just said, that's what I'd say.
So you're saying you tailor your program to each individual situation.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, thank you.
There's such a variety of situations. And I love that you said you give them a toolbox, which is amazing. And it's like a recipe. Different people need, if you're going to make cornbread, you're going to use cornmeal. If you're going to make brownies, you're going to use sugar and flour, right? Each recipe is different. I love that. Love that.
And the recipe can change. Sometimes you need a gluten-free recipe that day. And sometimes, you know what I mean? It's like being able to realize that you can change, like that what's going to show up is not going to work the same. And so, yeah, it's a recipe, and it's, wait, what do you need? Okay, let me try. And sometimes it's a little too much of this sprinkle, and sometimes it's a little too much. And it's like, but it is very geared towards the individual. And I think that, like, another one of the things that I dabble in right now, I like to just say it's a hobby because I'm still being with it, is my home mediumship and it's like all of that kind of piece of it. And so it really also comes down to energy, and I have an ability, I really feel people because it's something I like to do. And so I can kind of also feel what someone kind of needs to do when I can close my mouth. Right. And like listen, right. And be able to be in that space. I can definitely, like, you can feel. And so I like to try and be in that space as often as I can, obviously, when I'm having a session with someone. And so I can feel into also because it's energy. And so I'm feeling into their energy, which I think is important. I'm not just, hearing what they're saying, because they could say one thing, but it's like, this
Yeah.
person's not. And I ask a lot of like questions, and not a question, just questions to make you think, because maybe no one's ever asked you that. And then I get to be the one who I feel very grateful, like, just like, this is what I get to do while they hear themselves when they give the response.
Yeah.
To me,
Excellent.
sometimes it's such a sacred place. And so
Yeah.
even they might not even thought about the question, right? Or it's like, and it's just like, oh my gosh, I never, right? That's why I kind of like this whole thing. It's like, oh, do you want to know the questions beforehand? I'm like, no, because I kind of just want to go with like, okay, what are you going to ask? It's kind of the same things. Like they don't know what questions I'm going to ask them before we go into coaching, right? Because I'm not sure how it's going to go. So I guess I handle these kind of things the same way, where it's like, no, I'd rather not. Like, let me just see what's going to happen, right? Of like, what's the question going to be? So it's kind of the same thing. Like, what kind of questions am I going to ask them that's going to start something, that's going to open something that maybe they never even knew? Or it was like, it's that same thing. It's like, oh my gosh, I thought I was over that. It's like you were over that part of it maybe, but now you're in a new space of the onion.
Can you give us an example, Auntie Jen, of one of your successful cases? Like, what was one of the hardest sessions that you went into, and what was the biggest transformation that came out of it in the end?
I think I can't think of an exact moment, but what I can think of is like just someone coming into a session with a story they've been telling themselves for so long that it looked a some way, and we unpacked it together and we sorted it. You got to sort it, sit with it, and do whatever with it. And then they left with a different outcome. They left with a different view of themselves in the moment. And to me, like, that would be what I can think of right off the top of my head, because there's been so many amazing moments. It's really like just, someone coming in, like, I look at situational, like, just someone coming in the way that they um, came in with, I'm going back to how they love themselves and how they viewed themselves, and then how now they carry themselves, like being in a relationship where the partner that they had, I knew that was definitely not, just like some people have seen that for myself, right? I knew that this was definitely not the mirror. Like, this was not like, this was not where it was the energy of the right, but they had to find them themselves to be able to. And they were definitely being, not treated properly, or all the different things that go along with it that can happen in a relationship when you first start off. And then it looks like, well, right. And then you're in it and you're there, and it's been how long? And now you're like, wait, what happened? And you're like, oh, I should make this work. And then you don't realize how much you're taking too much. Right. And so having a moment like that, if I can think of a client where it was like they were just in the darkest place of like just the
Yeah.
way they were allowing themselves to be treated by this individual, and deciding that they wanted more for themselves. And even though it was painful, they didn't know what was going to happen, but they knew that, leaving this particular relationship was more important than staying with them for themselves. And so I can think of those moments with a few people that were definitely really powerful as well.
And you know what's really fun to watch the transformation? They come in for one thing, and then they
Yes.
start to change that one thing, and then everything else in their life naturally changes behind it that they weren't expecting to come in and change. So it's like this whole butterfly effect. I had a client a couple of years back who came in just to learn how to manifest. But she had a little bit of a drinking problem, and all of a sudden the manifesting turned to getting sober, getting back in shape, fixing relationships with her one friend and with her spouse, and same thing with her family. And it was so cool to watch how one little commitment to change
Mm-hmm.
literally spiraled into several little changes. And now she's like a whole different person. And it's so cool. And I'm allowed to talk about this because she, in the past, has given me permission to use her example. Very real, wonderful person in real life who just took a little piece of what she wanted to change. And then she didn't even realize that one little piece completed the whole puzzle for her life. And it was so beautiful and to watch that
Yes.
unfold.
Yes. And you bring that, I love that you said that. It really sparked something in me of someone someone very close to me was, you could tell they wanted some help, but they didn't know what to do. And what do I need to go to help for? Right. And it was like, go for grief counseling, go because of the grief. That's always a great way to start, is like the grief of like, what are you carrying grief for? To be able to just start there. Sometimes somebody will want to be able to kind of do that. And then what ends up happening from that is like, you don't even know, right? Because it's like one thing turns to the next thing to turn to the next thing. And so it definitely is a starting off point of like, yeah, what brings you to like, what is that? And usually that's just it's the crust, right? It's just like it's the little pinpoint. It usually turns out to be something because it's way more, but either they don't know it, they're not willing to admit it yet, they're not sure about it. And of course we're unsure because I'm not, it's as it's being guided authentically. It's like, you don't know what's coming up. We don't know what's going to come up each day. We don't know ahead of time, right? Per se, of like how that you can know, okay, it's going to be a challenging time. You're going to be with the family. So let's connect before, right? But we don't really know what's going to happen when you're in there. But like, okay, let's make sure you got all your tools. How do we have this? But what's going to happen, right? And then the conversation can start here. And then it just turns in this other direction from, again, one question. How'd that make you feel? Where'd that come from? Where do you think that lives in your body? Like, I mean, so many different ways of like kind of going in that, realm of like all the possibilities of how could we got to do it all. It's mind, body, spirit.
And how many people actually ask those questions? How many times does a spouse say, well, how do you feel about that? Instead of just barking and nagging orders, we forget to say, well, how are you feeling inside about where you're currently at? The things that I'm suggesting that you do. We forget to ask our friends. We're so busy and caught up with all the distractions of the world that we don't even know how we feel half the time because we're numbed out. If we're not numbed out from alcohol or drugs or food or sugar or the television, it's something else. It's the news. It's the fear. It's the depression. I mean, Nik gets these questions all the time in her psychic guidance readings, as I do. But Nik, do you have any final things to add on this beautiful conversation?
Well, I will say that the three of us could talk for at least 12 hours straight.
Oh my gosh.
No question. I only touched the surface of my questions. But
we'll have Aunt Jenn again on.
I would love to come back, ladies. Anytime you want me, I want to come back.
When we go to video, we will definitely have Aunt Jenn on. She's also on my YouTube channel with me every Wednesday morning, so please watch.
And mine. It's on that one too, right? Aunt Jenn 888. I get streamed on YouTube, so we're on YouTube together every Wednesday. Yep. True facts.
All the links are in the show notes. If you could leave everyone listening with one Aunt Jenn life rule, what would it be?
I mean, the thing that's coming to my mind is like, I say this a lot. It's like, you don't want to miss one moment of a love story that you have with anyone else. Why would you do that to yourself? Why? Why would you do that? Why would you miss out on that? Like that, why would you do that to you? You're worth it.
You choose you. That's what that means to me. Choose yourself.
And also choose the people that present themselves to you. And if it's a match and it's a vibe and a resonance, oh my gosh, hold on to it and cherish it.
Yeah. Do the work.
Yeah.
Be willing to do the work because that's what it takes. It takes communication. It takes work. And it takes your willingness.
It's worth it in the end. Yeah.
It takes work, and you have to be willing to work on yourself in order to work with someone else.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, it's challenging. It's a fear. They have a hard time looking at themselves. And that's where we get, you tie that back into a narcissist, right? You have a hard time. And it's like, you can't miss out on that piece. So
I'll say that one of the hardest things I learned in therapy is to admit I made mistakes in my relationships. That was really hard. Like, oh, I'm not right all the time. Wait a minute. Something's wrong here.
Yeah, see, I'm the opposite. I took too much responsibility for everything. Yeah. And I had a harder time realizing that other people needed to take some responsibility, and that in order to be the relationships I'm interested in being in now are people that are willing to do that. And if they don't, that's okay. But you're not really the right fit for me for a relationship because I take over responsibility, and I will always take responsibility and be like, I might not always enjoy. I'm not saying I'm sitting there enjoying it, or I'm also the easiest to, have things when someone's bringing something up to myself as well. Like I own all that too. But you have to be willing to like do the work, to be able to show up, to be able to have that. And if not, we're just not the right fit in any kind of relationship, friendship, but whatever that looks like. It's just, I take on a lot of responsibility, and I will. And so I'd like someone who can do the same.
And
Yeah, I'm a bit,
yeah,
I'm about a half and half on that one. So I tend to either over responsible, or sometimes I just have too high of expectations.
True that.
And yeah, because I mean, I have the highest expectations for myself, right?
Yes.
And so I always
Yes.
expect other people to have the same high expectations for the relationship. And I realize, no, I can't put that on other people. It's so hard. And, everything's a learning process.
yeah.
Absolutely.
And then we can always meet in the middle, and being emotionally mature, which is, we're all in our 50s now, is something
Wait, we are?
yeah.
Wait a minute. Did you just out me as a 50-something on
She
national podcast?
she did. She did, both of us. She was like, listen, that's okay.
Does it say Lady Shadow born in 1942
No.
on the show notes? Thank you.
I'll put it in there though. But I will say that my 50s have been my happiest decade of my life because of all the things Aunt Jenn has talked about, all the things Lady Shadow has talked about today. It's just a beautiful journey. And I love that Aunt Jenn said, if I can save you decades of baggage, I want to help you do that, because none of us three had anybody helping us. We needed an Aunt Jenn. That's why
Yes.
we found each other all those years ago.
And to wrap it up of like, Aunt Jenn, the aunt you never knew you needed. I need Aunt Jenn too.
Yeah.
And so I first do Aunt Jenn for me. They're all the videos, all the stuff that I do are all like a version of myself, of being able to witness myself, of being like, that's your Aunt Jenn too.
Yeah.
And then the rest just trickles out. But it's really, it's selfish. It's my own of having to like it's kind of like, 50, what is it? 50 First Dates.
Yeah.
It's the same concept. It's like, I'm doing it to remind myself, because I'm still on this path. I'm still like, and that's why I love these conversations, because then it's like, Lady Shadow's reminding me, it's like, oh my gosh, yeah, I definitely take a lot. I mean, I take over responsibility, and I also have high expectations. So it's like, they go to, it's like, I definitely, I'm not saying one or the other. I'm just saying I definitely am someone who takes more responsibility than less. And I definitely see the expectations and all that. And so it's like, it all just goes, right? I mean,
right. So I just want to thank you, Aunt Jenn, for being here with Lady Shadow and myself on the Soul Twin Stars podcast. Aunt Jenn has a plethora of offerings for her coaching services. All of her links are in the show notes below. You can contact her through her link tree or through her email, auntjen1972@gmail.com. Thank you again, Aunt Jenn and Lady Shadow. Any last words of wisdom?
Just that we love all of you.
Yeah. And I just wanted to say thank you to you. I really have been watching and listening to you girls for a while now. And I've just really been like at the edge of my seat being like, ooh, I'd love to have a conversation with them. Like, I love, it reminds us, we have people saying that, like the three of us have been having conversations. I'm literally brought back to when I had met you, back in the kitchen, right over there. And how many, 30 years ago, the three of you, and you lived together, the two of you, we were just having conversations.
Exactly. Right? And Nicole, she called us girls, not 50-somethings.
That's right. We were girls. We were girls back then. We were ladies.
We were
ladies. And I think the one thing that I would say in, inspiration or whatever's kind of looking at is, but to topping off this, what I had said before is like, you're worth it. Like you get to find your worth, and even though it's a painful journey, like it's one of the most beautiful, rewarding journeys you could ever go down. And when you're sitting there being like, this pain is so painful that I feel like I'm never, ever, ever going to get out of this. First of all, you will. And the level that you can feel this deep pain, you will feel the opposite. So allow yourself to go to that place so that the other side brings out that beauty, that it will mirror it to the deepness and the depths that you're willing and able to do in the dark.
Love it. Thank you so much, Aunt Jenn, for being here. Thank you, Nik, for having me back after my long week at the theater. And thank everyone listening. We've had a wonderful time hanging out with everyone again. And until next week, we will see you on the other side. Thank you so much for joining us this episode for the Soul Twin Stars podcast. Find us on our podcast Facebook page for Magical Mondays live at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, where we will help you magically slay your weekdays, and for awesome giveaways. For more information about what other spiritual things Nik and I do and offer, visit peacefulnikthemedium.com. That's Nik with just a K. Or to connect with me, Lady Shadow, soulsandspirits.com is the place to go. If you want to be a guest on one of our shows, we would absolutely love that. Contact us at soultwinstars@gmail.com. See you next Friday on Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Apple Music, Facebook, and on YouTube. Sending you all so many blessings. Thank you so much for joining us, and until next time, know that you are all cherished.